Good morning. Welcome to IS Help Desk. This is the second video on ecology and environment under the series of Revise for PT with IS Help Desk. In this video, we will cover the topic biodiversity and its conservation. So before moving to the topic, firstly we should see the previous year questions based on this topic. As you can see, in 2019, the basic question was asked about the species and where it is found. Similarly, a question on biosphere reserve has been asked. Then moving to 2018, a question on invasive species have been asked. Then in 2018 only, the question on mass extinction has been asked. Then in 2014, the basic definition of biosphere reserves have been asked. Similarly, in 2012, the concept of in situ conservation of species have been asked. Then in 2012, the question was on which of the following are the supporting services of the ecosystem. And in 2012 only, the question on threats to the biodiversity has been asked. So we will cover all these topics in the following video. So now moving to the first topic. What is biodiversity? The Convention on Biological Diversity defines biodiversity as the variability among living organisms from all sources, including terrestrial, marine and other aquatic systems, and the ecological complexes of which they are part. This includes diversity within species, between species and of ecosystem. So simply, biodiversity defines the all variety of life forms on the earth, varying from genes to the species to the ecosystem. So biodiversity plays an important role in the ecosystem as they provide the following benefits. It provides provisioning services such as food, clean water, timber, fiber and genetic resources. So provisioning services include the products that have been provided by the biodiversity. Second is regulating services, that is, it regulates the climate, disease, water quality, pollination. Then it provides the cultural services such as recreational activities, aesthetic and spiritual benefits. And last, it provides the supporting services such as soil formation and nutrient cycling. Supporting services are required for the proper functioning of the first three services provided by the biodiversity. Now moving to the types of biodiversity. First is species biodiversity. It refers to the variety of species within a geographical area. तो एक पर्टिकुलर इकोसिस्टम हो या एक पर्टिकुलर कोई भी रीजन हो, उसमें कितनी स्पीशीज हैं उसको हम बोलते हैं स्पीशीज बायोडाइवर्सिटी. सेकेंड इज जेनेटिक बायोडाइवर्सिटी. इट रिफर्स टू द वेरिएशन ऑफ जीन्स विद इन स्पीशीज. सो एक ही स्पीशीज में जितनी जेनेटिक वेरिएशंस होगा उतना ही इजिली वो अडॉप्ट हो पाएगा फॉर द सर्वाइवल. तो जेनेटिक बायोडाइवर्सिटी जितनी ज़्यादा होती है उससे पता चलता है कि उसका एडेप्टेशन लेवल कितना ज़्यादा है स्पीशीज़ का. द थर्ड इज इकोसिस्टम बायोडाइवर्सिटी. इट रिफर्स टू द प्रेजेंस ऑफ डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ इकोसिस्टम. कि अगर हम मैराइन इकोसिस्टम में भी फिशेस होती हैं, फ्रेश वाटर इकोसिस्टम में भी फिशेस होती हैं. सो इकोसिस्टम बायोडाइवर्सिटी डिफाइन करता है कि अलग अलग टाइप्स ऑफ इकोसिस्टम कितने हैं. देन देयर इज अ मेथड फॉर मेजरिंग ऑफ बायोडाइवर्सिटी. Alpha diversity is the diversity within a particular area or ecosystem, usually expressed by the number of species in that ecosystem. So alpha diversity ये बताएगी कि पर्टिकुलर एरिया में कितनी स्पीशीज हैं, दैट मीन्स स्पीशीज रिचनेस कितनी है. देन बीटा डाइवर्सिटी जो है वो कंपैरिजन ऑफ डाइवर्सिटी बिटवीन टू इकोसिस्टम्स. कि अगर हम एक फ्रेश वाटर इकोसिस्टम ले रहे हैं और एक मैराइन इकोसिस्टम ले रहे हैं तो बीटा डाइवर्सिटी ये बताएगी दोनों को कंपेयर करके कि स्पीशीज का चेंजेस कितना हो रहा है. एंड द थर्ड इज गामा डाइवर्सिटी. कि अगर हम एक टोटल ब्रॉड एरिया को लेते हैं तो उसमें स्पीशीज में कितनी डाइवर्सिटी हो रही है उसको हम गामा डाइवर्सिटी कहते हैं. इट इज ए कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ बोथ अल्फा एंड बीटा डाइवर्सिटी. कि एक पर्टिकुलर रीजन में कितनी है, रीजन टू रीजन कंपैरिजन अगर हम कर रहे हैं तो उसे बीटा डाइवर्सिटी कहते हैं. और अगर हम होल एक एरिया के बारे में, पूरा कंप्लीट ब्रॉड एरिया के बारे में बात करें तो उसको हम गामा डाइवर्सिटी से काउंट करते हैं. नाउ मूविंग टू द टॉपिक बायोडाइवर्सिटी हॉटस्पॉट्स. दिस कॉन्सेप्ट हैज बीन गिवन बाय नॉर्मन मायर्स. And according to him, the hotspots are the richest and the most threatened reservoirs of biodiversity on the earth. He has given two criteria for the declaration of biodiversity hotspot. So the first one is it must have at least 1500 vascular plants as endemics. And the second is it must have 30% or less of its original natural vegetation. That is, the area should be threatened. So the first criteria is the plant species should be endemic, and the second is the natural vegetation should be threatened. So if we see the question given in 2011, three of the following criteria have contributed to the recognition of Western Ghats, Sri Lanka and Indo-Burma region as hotspots of biodiversity. So in this, the three criteria will be, first is species richness, because it should be an area of high species diversity. Second is endemism, and third is threat perception. So these are the first 3 and 5 are the three criteria for the recognition of hotspots of biodiversity. Hence, for solving the question, you should know the criteria properly. Now, in India, we have 4 biodiversity hotspots. The first one is Himalayas. It includes the entire Himalayan region, falling in Pakistan, Tibet, Nepal, Bhutan, China and Myanmar. Second is the Indo-Burma region. It includes entire northeastern India except Assam and Andaman group of islands, because Andaman and Nicobar group of islands are part of Sunda land. And the fourth one is Western Ghats and Sri Lanka. So India has 4 biodiversity hotspots. Now a new concept of hope spots have been formed, which defines the ecologically unique area of ocean designated for the protection under a global conservation campaign overseen by Mission Blue. Mission Blue is a non-profit organization. So hope spots denotes the ecologically sensitive and unique area in the ocean which needs attention for the conservation. So don't confuse it with the hotspot. Hotspot denote the areas which have the high species diversity, having the endemic plant system and are threatened, whereas hope spots denotes the region in the marine ecosystem. And Andaman and Nicobar Islands and Lakshadweep Islands have recently been named as hope spots by the IUCN and Mission Blue. Now we move to the threats to biodiversity. The threats to biodiversity includes the main is population growth and resource consumption, climate change and global warming, habitat conversion and urbanization, invasive alien species, overexploitation of natural resources and environmental degradation. So all these are threats to biodiversity which are endangering the species in the ecosystem. So through this diagram we can understand the indirect and direct drivers of the threats to biodiversity. So indirect drivers include the economic, that is consumption of natural resources, demographic, that is high population, socio-political, cultural and religious, and science and technology. These all are leading to the resource degradation. And the direct drivers are overexploitation, habitat change, nutrient loading and pollution, invasive alien species and climate change. So all these direct and indirect drivers are leading to the loss of biodiversity. As in 2012, a question has been asked, which of the following can be threats to biodiversity of a geographical area? So the first one is global warming, fragmentation of habitat, invasion of alien species and promotion of vegetarianism. So all these are threat to biodiversity as these leading to loss of biodiversity. So the answer will be D. Now moving to the concept of extinction of species. Extinction occurs when species are diminished because of environmental forces. As we have seen in the threats to biodiversity, that is habitat fragmentation, global climate change, natural disaster, overexploitation of species for human rule. So extinction of species means that the last living individual of that species have died. So that lead to extinction of species. So forms of extinction are, सो नेचुरल एक्सटिंक्शन जो है वो एक प्रोसेस है इकोसिस्टम का जिसमें कुछ स्पीशीज एक्सटिंक्ट होती है और कुछ स्पीशीज जो है वो जेनेटिकली डाइवर्सिफाई करती हैं अपने को एग्जिस्टेंस के लिए. सेकेंड इज मास एक्सटिंक्शन. देयर हैव बीन सेवरल पीरियड्स इन द अर्थ's geological history where large number of species became extinct. फॉर एग्जाम्पल मास एक्सटिंक्शन में हम एक एग्जाम्पल ले सकते हैं डायनासोर्स का. एंड द थर्ड फॉर्म इज एंथ्रोपोजेनिक एक्सटिंक्शन. तो जो भी ह्यूमन एक्टिविटीज आइदर ड्यू टू पॉल्यूशन, ड्यू टू हैबिटेट डिस्ट्रक्शन, ड्यू टू रिसोर्स डिग्रेडेशन, अगर उसकी वजह से एक्सटिंक्शन हो रहा है उनको हम बोलते हैं एंथ्रोपोजेनिक एक्सटिंक्शन. फॉर एग्जाम्पल इन 2018 a question has been asked, sixth mass extinction is often mentioned in the news in the context of discussion of. The answer is mankind's overexploitation, misuse of natural resources, fragmentation, loss of natural habitat, destruction of ecosystem, pollution and global climate change. So all these are due to anthropogenic activities and this is known as anthropogenic extinction. So the sixth mass extinction will be due to human activities. As we all know that the IUCN Red List provides information on threats, ecological requirements and habitat of species and what are the conservation activities should be taken for its conservation. IUCN Red List जो है वो सभी स्पीशीज को 8 पार्ट्स में डिफाइन करती है जिससे हमें ये पता चलता है कि वो स्पीशीज के कंजर्वेशन स्टेटस क्या है. जैसे फर्स्ट इज एक्सटिंक्ट. एक्सटिंक्ट मीन्स द लास्ट इंडिविजुअल ऑफ दैट स्पीशीज हैव डाइड. दैट मीन्स कि वो कंप्लीटली गायब हो चुकी है स्पीशीज. देन सेकेंड इज एक्सटिंक्ट इन द वाइल्ड. एक्सटिंक्ट इन द वाइल्ड कि अगर कोई पर्टिकुलर स्पीशीज जो है वो उसका अगर हम सर्वे करा रहे हैं किसी पर्टिकुलर रीजन में जहाँ पे वो पहले पाई जाती थी और अब उसके बारे में हमें वहाँ पे पर्टिकुलर रीजन में या पर्टिकुलर वाइल्ड एरिया में हमें नहीं मिल रही है, दैट मीन्स कि इट हैज़ बिकम एक्सटिंक्ट इन द वाइल्ड रीजन. थर्ड इज क्रिटिकली इंडेंजर्ड. दैट इज व्हेन इट इज फेसिंग हाई रिस्क ऑफ एक्सटिंक्शन इन द वाइल्ड इन इमीडिएट फ्यूचर. कि अगर हमने उसको कंजर्व नहीं करा तो इन द नियर फ्यूचर इट विल बिकम एक्सटिंक्ट. Then the fourth criteria is endangered. When it is not critically endangered but is facing high risk of extinction. So critically endangered means होता है कि अगर हमने अभी step नहीं लिया so it will become extinct in immediate future. That is within few years. Endangered होता है which is not critically endangered but facing high risk of extinction in the near future. And the third is vulnerable, which are not critically endangered or endangered, but they are facing high risk of extinction in the wild in the medium term future. So these three are divided according to the time in which they become extinct. Lower risk, as the word suggests, it has been evaluated and does not satisfy the criteria for critically endangered, endangered or vulnerable. Data deficient कि when we don't have information to make the assessment of the species and not evaluated, that there are many species which have not been assessed or studied according to these criteria, so they are part of not evaluated. So IUCN divides the complete species in these 8 criteria. The pink pages in this publication include the critically endangered species and the green pages are used for those species that were formerly endangered but now have recovered to the point that they have no longer threatened. So green pages वो denote करते हैं कि हमने इस conservation steps लिए हैं and then they move from the endangered criteria to the lower risk criteria. Now moving to the concept of invasive species. Invasive species को हम बोलते हैं एलियन स्पीशीज की अगर कोई पर्टिकुलर एरिया में कोई नई स्पीशीज आके रह रही है एंड इट डिस्ट्रॉयड्स दैट इकोसिस्टम, तो उसको हम बोलते हैं इन्वेसिव स्पीशीज. जैसे एक स्पीशीज होती है वाटर हेयर शीथ, जो हम लोग जनरली रिवर्स और लेक्स में देखते हैं कि ऊपर एक ग्रीन कवर बन जाता है एंड इट इज डेंस, जिससे सनलाइट जो है वो रिड्यूस हो जाती है फॉर द प्लांट्स एंड एक्वेटिक ऑर्गेनिज्म. सो इन्वेसिव स्पीशीज क्या करती है कि फॉर रैपिड रिप्रोडक्शन एंड ग्रोथ ऑफ इटसेल्फ वो बाकी जो नेटिव एक्वेटिक प्लांट्स या एनिमल्स हैं उस एरिया के उनको वो खत्म कर देती है. सो द मोस्ट कॉमन कैरेक्टरिस्टिक ऑफ इन्वेसिव स्पीशीज आर रैपिड रिप्रोडक्शन एंड ग्रोथ, हाई डिस्पर्सल ability to survive on various food types and in a wide range of environmental conditions. So in 2018 a question has been asked, why is a plant called Prosopis juliflora often mentioned in news? So this plant tends to reduce the biodiversity in the area in which it grows. So it is a invasive species. Now moving to the last part of the video, that is biodiversity conservation methods. So there are two conservation methods. First is in situ and second is ex situ. In situ means the conservation of species occur in the natural habitat. That is कि अगर स्पीशीज जहाँ पे जिस रीजन में मिलती है उसी रीजन में ही उसको रहने दिया जा रहा है और वहीं पे ही स्टेप्स लिए जा रहे हैं फॉर इट्स कंजर्वेशन. सो इट इज नोन एज इन सीटू कंजर्वेशन. एंड सेकेंड इज एक्स सीटू कंजर्वेशन, जिसमें हम एक्सटर्नल जगहों पे ले जाके स्पीशीज को हम कंजर्व करते हैं. सो द in situ conservation methods में, so the in situ conservation includes, first is wildlife sanctuaries. Wildlife sanctuaries are the areas which are notified by the state government, and that area should have adequate ecological, faunal, floral, geomorphological, natural and geological significance. अगर वो area स्टेट गवर्नमेंट को लगता है कि इम्पोर्टेंट है और उसका एंड इट नीड्स प्रोटेक्शन, सो उस एरिया को वाइल्ड लाइफ सेंचुरी डिक्लेयर कर दिया जाता है. And some restricted human activities are allowed inside the sanctuary, given under Wildlife Protection Act 1972. So Wildlife Sanctuary and National Park are defined under Wildlife Protection Act 1972. और वाइल्ड लाइफ सेंचुरीज में कुछ एक्टिविटीज को अलाउ करा जाता है, जैसे कि कुछ नियर बाई विलेजेस हों या कुछ ट्राइबल एरियाज हों जो उस सेंचुरी के आसपास रहते हैं. सो few activities of them are allowed in that region. So wildlife sanctuary is defined by state government via notification. इसके लिए कोई legislation pass करने की जरूरत नहीं होती है. And fixation and alteration of boundary can be done by state legislature via resolution. The second is national park. National park are declared by the central government and the state government. State government can send a request to the सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट की कोई भी वाइल्ड लाइफ सेंचुरी को नेशनल पार्क में कन्वर्ट करा जाए. ये नेशनल पार्क जो है वो डिक्लेयर करा जाता है अंडर वाइल्ड लाइफ प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट 1972. द डिफरेंस बिटवीन वाइल्ड लाइफ सेंचुरी एंड नेशनल पार्क इज दैट इन नेशनल पार्क नो ह्यूमन एक्टिविटी इज परमिटेड except the ones permitted by the chief wildlife warden, and for the alteration of the boundaries of national park legislation pass होने की जरूरत है, whereas for the wildlife sanctuary legislation is not needed. Now we have provided a list of the sanctuary and the national parks and the main animal found in that region. So this is the factual information which you can read from the material provided. Moving to the third form of protected area, that is marine protected area. It covers the areas of seas, ocean, estuaries and large lakes. So you should know the list of marine protected areas in India. First is Gulf of Mannar National Park, that is in Tamil Nadu, and Dugong sea cow, a vulnerable marine animal, is found in this area. So it can be asked in the examination. Second is Gulf of Kutch Marine National Park. It is the first marine national park of India. Third one is Malwan Wildlife Sanctuary of Maharashtra. Then it is Mahatma Gandhi Marine National Park of Andaman and Nicobar. And the last one is Garimatha Sanctuary. It is the most important nesting beach for olive ridley sea turtles. So in India, 5 areas have been defined as marine protected areas. So you should know the list as it can be asked in the examination. Now the fourth form is conservation reserves and community reserves in India. So these areas act as buffer zones between established national park, wildlife sanctuary and protected forest of India. अगर हम उस एरिया को कंजर्वेशन एरिया कह रहे हैं, then it is controlled by government of India. अगर हम उसको कम्युनिटी एरिया कह रहे हैं, then it is controlled by private. So these protected area categories were first introduced in the Wildlife Protection Amendment Act of 2002, in the amendment of Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. Now the fifth part is sacred groves. That means कि अगर कोई भी हम forest के particular area को in the name of religion अगर हम उसको conserve करते हैं तो उसको हम बोलते हैं sacred groves. And the last one is biosphere reserves. Biosphere reserves denotes the concept of sustainable development जहाँ पे human activities and the biodiversity conservation occur simultaneously. So biosphere reserves को 3 parts में divide करा गया है. First is core area, then buffer area and then transition area. So in the core area, no human activity is allowed. In the buffer zone, it is used for scientific research and education. And the third part is transition area, जहाँ पे human activities जो हैं वो allow करेगी. So the transitional area denotes the sustainable development model in which socio-cultural development of the region, the economic development of the region occurs along with the ecological conservation. So biosphere reserve जो है वो एक sustainable development concept का part है. 2014 a question was asked, the most important strategy for the conservation of biodiversity together with traditional human life is the establishment of biosphere reserve. Because in biosphere reserve, human development as well as conservation of biodiversity occur together. And in 2012, a question has been asked, in which among the following categories of protected areas in India, local people not allowed to collect and use of biomass? So as we have read that in national park, no human activity is allowed. So the answer will be national park. So if you read the material properly, then you will be able to solve maximum questions in the prelims examination related to the particular topic. Now moving to the list of biosphere reserves. In this we have provided the list of biosphere reserve, particular location, its flora, fauna and the tribals found in that region. For example, in 2019 a question has been asked about Agasthyamala Biosphere Reserve and the areas which it covers. So in the table we have provided that in detail. You can read that for all the biosphere reserves, and as it is a factual information, you can read the table from the material provided in the description box. Now moving to the second form of conservation, that is ex situ conservation. In this the preservation of components of biodiversity occurs outside the natural habitat. So in situ जो उसका नेचुरल हैबिटेट होता है स्पीशीज का, वहीं पे ही हम प्रोजेक्ट्स लॉन्च करते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल प्रोजेक्ट टाइगर, प्रोजेक्ट राइनो कंजर्वेशन, प्रोजेक्ट एलिफेंट, जो विद इन उसी एरिया में ही करा जाता है जहाँ पे वो स्पीशीज मिलती है. एंड द सेकेंड इज एक्स सिटू कंजर्वेशन, जो नेचुरल हैबिटेट के आउटसाइड करा जाता है. सो इन दिस द टेक्निक्स आर, फर्स्ट इज सीड स्टोरेज. सीड स्टोरेज मीन्स कि हमने कोई भी सीड सैंपल लिया है एंड दैट सीड हैज बीन कंजर्व्ड इन द जीन बैंक सो दैट सीड कैन प्रोवाइड अस रिसर्च अपॉर्चुनिटी और उसको हम आगे के लिए कंजर्व कर सकें. सेकेंड इज इन विट्रो स्टोरेज. इन दिस द टिश्यू सैंपल्स ऑफ द प्लांट्स आर कलेक्टेड एंड प्लेस्ड इन पैथोजन फ्री इन्वायरमेंट. बोटैनिकल गार्डन मीन्स वो होता है कि जहाँ पे हमने the collection of seeds, the conservation of plants occur. Then it is DNA and pollen storage. The collection of DNA or pollen and storage in appropriate refrigerated conditions are done. And the third is long-term captive breeding. That means कि अगर हम animals को zoo में रख रहे हैं, so it is a form of ex situ conservation. So I hope you have understood the difference between in situ and ex situ conservation, and you have found the video useful. Thank you. Hope you have liked the video. For any query, you can mail us at info@ishelpdesk.in or WhatsApp at 85860 55783. And for more guidance, please visit our website. Thank you.